For the last portion of the running fundamentals series, let's talk about competition. Now, competition is where people get hurt. Now, let's just be clear with that because running in itself is not going to get you injured. It's when you attach the ego. But that's what we do as humans. We compete. We want to see you can do it bigger, better, faster, stronger. It is what it is. So I love it. That's what an athlete does. They embrace the challenge of competition, of difficulty, of growth, and they go at it head on. But you want to understand that when you start to get to more of a competitive mindset, there are other things that really matter. It's like your sleep, your nutrition, your mindset, your recovery, your strength training, your prep, your timing, your training volume over the span of a week. There's so much more that goes into it. So to be clear, if you want to be really competitive, you need a coach that's going to help see things objectively. It's not that you can't get a good return on your own work. It's just that you don't even know your blind spots. By definition, a blind spot is that which you cannot see. If you knew where your blind spots are, they're not your blind spots. So like there's a humility involving that. I don't know how to best do this myself. Those are the best athletes because the best athletes all have coaches. So get a coach that can help you, that's been where you want to go, and that can help you walk and be objective about the things you need to change and do. That being said, there are a few parts you need to understand. The training needs to be on point. You need to have something that's going to work and get you the desired outcome. It means if you're going for a distance, you need to have the endurance volume to be able to support that many steps over that much time. You also need to have the aerobic capacity to be able to maintain the output you want. If you're going for speed, you have to have the strength to be able to put down that force in the ground, absorb it, maintain your form over the distance you want to do. You need some version of both of those, but it's a variable. If I'm doing short, intense work, we need a little bit more speed and power work and a little bit less volume. I still need both, and vice versa for the endurance training. But past that, the training is only like 25-40% of the whole thing. It's the point of training is to break your body down. If you're not sleeping, eating well, recovering, and having a healthy mindset about what you're trying to do, it doesn't matter because that's where your body rebuilds itself. I can only beat myself up for so long without having negative externalities. So that's where people will feel good for about 2 weeks of training, starting to feel beat up in week 3, and then the ones that are dense and just keep going through it, they get injured and hurt because they don't stop. And the ones that don't push themselves hard enough never get anywhere because they don't push themselves hard enough. So there's a fine line between this where you have to be in touch with your body. You have to have a plan that you can also adjust as you need, but with the guidance of a coach, so you're not just lying to yourself about what's going on. All that being said, a few other intangible things in your sleep. You gotta sleep. If you want to be able to perform, you're gonna need 8-9 hours of sleep. I highly recommend spending some money getting a good mattress. I personally use 8 Sleep, and I think that's been fantastic. It's a temperature controlled thing. But whatever you choose, just make sure it's a good space. I mean, I invest in air purifiers, temperature controlled mattress, making sure my lighting is changed at night. Like those things really matter. And the way you sleep is going to make the biggest improvement on your overall ability to perform. That being said, nutrition matters a lot at the point of what you put in your body is your fuel. You can be high carb, low fat, medium protein, be totally fine. You can be high fat, medium protein, zero or low carb, be totally fine. You kind of have to pick one. What you can't really do is a super balanced diet of like medium carb, medium protein, medium fat. That's where you're not really optimizing any energy system, whether it's a glycolytic, glucose-based and fast explosive carb-driven metabolism or a fat-driven ketotic, more of a aerobic fuel source. So both of those work. I'm not an expert in nutrition. I'm just pointing you in the direction of things to start to research and learn about. But understand that nutrition matters. And what matters a little bit more than the macronutrient profile is the inflammatory part. And this is something I think gets underutilized by most people is they don't pay attention to how the food they eat impacts their brain, their focus, and their joint health. You can eat the perfect calorie ratio, to have perfect macronutrient ratio, but eat foods that are inflammatory, whether it's gluten, whether it's vegetable seed oils, whether it's processed foods, and your joints and your focus are going to be messed up. And that's a big issue because it's not just the calories, it's not just the macros, it's how your body like the food you're getting. I tend to go with an animal-based meat, fruit, dairy, raw dairy, and eggs-based diet. It works really well for me, but it also is important for getting the low inflammation in the body so I can recover because I don't want my body to have to fight over dealing with bad food because I'm already putting it through the ringer with my training. So just understand that the nutrition matters a lot. Then you have to make sure you're doing the tissue prep around that. It's not just enough to go run. When I do 5, 10, 15, 20,000 steps, that's a lot of volume on the feet, especially if I'm doing sprinting, interval, and hard intensity work. Those things are going to beat my body up. So spending some time on the feet, getting the hand-foot glove, getting the massage going down with the foot lower leg when you're sitting down at night, making sure I'm doing some prep work after I finish training every single time to restore length in the tissue. Those are essential. Plus, you have to have some strength training because strength is important in developing stability and strength over a range of motion. That's going to be an invaluable part of keeping the tissue healthy. So these are also things that you need to do to recover as well. The last part to talk about is the competition part, the mindset of an athlete. As an athlete, you're going to be someone that has to push into challenges, to push into discomfort and difficulty. You have to constantly be working with yourself to do a little bit more, a little bit extra, and just go that last mile. When you're doing endurance stuff, it's a conversation with yourself. If I do like one rep, like a clean, I have to say, I'm doing this once. If I'm doing endurance stuff, I have to have a conversation. I have to say, don't slack off. One last bit, you got to keep that step every single time, every single second. You have to have this conversation with yourself. I'm going to say no. I'm going to keep doing it. Now, a big part of that is preparing to the training, but it's just about performing. It means when you get out there, you got to know this is going to hurt. I'm doing something that's taking away from a future level of health and ability, and I'm doing it for the short-term output. There's nothing healthy about sport and competition, other than it scratches an itch for us internally. But you do have to understand that as part of this, I'm going to have to work. And so that working part is going and facing the discomfort and leaning into it. Most people, and this is almost everybody, but about 40% of the way to what your body can do is where you start to feel like, my body feels beat up and tired and hurt. That's where you got to push through that wall. And you do that in training over and over again. It's about integrity. It's about showing up and doing what you said you're going to do. And that's the essential part of being an athlete. So understand, you have to face the challenge. You have to face the discomfort. You have to push through it. But do it intelligently. Meaning, understand the difference between stupid pain, where I'm not recovering, and when I'm going to go out and work hard. This is what I said. Most people train too easy on the hard stuff and too hard on the easy stuff. The hard thing they think they're doing is, I don't need to worry about pain. I'm just going to go grind through. My bones and knees and everything is shattering. That's dumb. It's not about overtraining. It's about under-recovering. So be smart with the training plan. Don't overdo it, because doing more training is not going to get you the result. You need to be playing smart with the other variables. But when you do go out and work, you need to be fresh. You need to be 100%. You need to be there. You need to be able to work into that. So when you go out and you do a session, you've rested, you eat, you've recovered, you have your plan, your program, you need to go out there. When you do 4x800 or 8x400, or you're doing 12x100, or you're doing hill sprints, or you're doing a 12-mile run, be there, lean in, and do the work. When you get to that 60% through and your body feels like you're dying, you are just now scratching the surface. When you feel that beat up, you feel my body's and my lungs are screaming, my muscles are aching, everything hurts, you just started. That's the beginning of your training session. And one last thing that will be a super helpful thing is keep in mind your self-talk. If you get in there and you say, I can do this, or I suck, I can't do this, the I's, that first person, that will drain your energy so quickly. What really helps is to coach yourself. Talk about yourself in the third person. Say, Graham's got this. Or you got it, buddy. You signed up. You want to be here. Or you can do this. Graham can do this. Graham wants to be out here. That second and third person is hugely valuable, because it puts things in a different perspective, and you are now literally coaching yourself, and it gets in a whole nother level of psychological motivation. So all that to be said, if you want to compete, understand that it's another undertaking. It will be difficult. It is challenging. Training is only a small part of it. Sleeping, mindset, the recovery, the psychology, the food, all that stuff matters as much, if not far more, than everything else you do from a training perspective. And then having a coach and understanding the psychology of being your own coach, but then working through this mindset of embracing challenge, that's what you got to have. You do that well, you'll be able to be a competitive runner. You'll be able to be successful with pushing yourself to that farthest level you possibly can and reaching yourself. And running is a great tool for that. That's the beauty of it, is it's ubiquitously available. You can get out and you can do it today, and you always have access to it. The world is your oyster. Get after it.